My dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for your really great response in submitting your assignment, which is really great. Like all of you were really sincere, and that was really, I just want to give you a big clap because you did really wonderful job. Now come to us. Now come to the point. What we as the university teachers, we want from you. We want from you that people will be successful in your career. How? By becoming more professional. And if you want to be more professional, what we want from you, we want from you that you become more communicative. You must have the great ability to speak. You must have, huge influence on the way must have huge influence on the society as well as your subordinates or as well as your colleagues. So to become really an influential figure, what you need to do, you must have the great ability to speak and write, and you must have the great ability to cope with the new genre of education and the new things of the educational sector, so that you become a great human being as well as a great professional leader. So we are going to learn today two new things. Not new things, but I think the old things, but we are going to learn it in a new way, so that I believe that all of you will be remembering these two things for your professional life. So far we have learned like how to write an apology letter. So far we have learned how to write kind of like an order letter. Now this class is all about like learning and getting the info of writing the business letters. As I said, that this course has been customized according to your need, because I want you to be more communicative. That really makes you a great influential figure in your company. I repeat that I want to emphasize on this word, influential, meaning that you become an inspiring figure in your career. Now, when you are joining in a company, like we all know that all of us, getting a job is something like it's really difficult. You know that it's a Herculean task getting a job nowadays. So you need to go for a huge competition. And then when you are selected in a company, basically what do? Initially, they call you for an interview, then you are getting selected and you are getting a green signal and you're so happy, delighted. But how to celebrate that when the jubilation, how to celebrate that jubilation, meaning that how to celebrate your happiness. Then they give you an appointment letter and you become so happy and you spread the news of the happiness to everyone, and then you distribute sweets to everyone because you got a job. Congratulations. These are the words that you're going to hear. Now the question is that when after you get the appointment letter, there are a few things that you need to do. When you just join immediately in the company, they want you to write a letter to them. What is that? Against their appointment letter. What is that? That's called joining letter, meaning that you should know how to write a joining letter. Because if you don't know how to write a joining letter, then it's a serious issue. You should be submitting a joining letter and keep a document to you as a proof that you have joined. This is meaning that you have accepted the appointment letter and declaring and like giving a testimony that yes, I want to join in your company. And this is how you should write it down. Now today we'll be focusing on a joining letter and then a resignation letter. So I know that all of you love to you have heard of this word, resignation letter. We all need to write this like when you're leaving a company. So these two letters, one is connected with your joining, meaning when you are starting the journey of your career, and one is a resignation letter when you're quitting a job. Then you need both these cases, meaning that you need these two letters. So we'll be just giving you a sample actually, just how to write those. And what is a joining letter? If you just look at the screen, and so what does it say? It says that joining letter is something like intended. When you are intending something, meaning that you are showing your intention that yes, I agree with your all the terms and conditions and I'm ready to join a new company. That's known as a joining letter, mentioning all the terms, just a very brief letter it has to be, just giving the date when you are joining, and you need to mention as well that I have accepted the appointment letter and I'm willing to join a new company on ... on the given date. That's called a joining letter. That's a seriously, meaning that showing your intention and just it's keeping a written format. So that will help you just to understand when you're resigning, that will help you when you have joined, and these are the documentation that you need to follow, because as a professional human being, we want to have a documentation of every act that we do in our company or in our job. Okay, that's called joining letter. Now, when I come for the resignation letter, when you are saying goodbye, Tata, and you're saying how, like, you know, you're going to say goodbye to a company, then you need to write, obviously you need to give a resignation letter. And this resignation letter is really, really significant. You need to submit it, because if you don't submit that resignation letter, you don't have to prove, because the company may take legal action against you if you are not resigning. When you're resigning and you don't have the proper documentation, the company may, you know, look for you. Even it's not a good thing for your professional life. So meaning that in the professional life, we must have serious documentation of all significant papers. Clear? That's what we need. So these two letters we'll be focusing on. Now, if you just resignation letter, your resignation letter acts as a formal recognition of your intent to leave the company, but it can still be used to reflect positively on you, as it will be an enduring record after you have departed. You must have a record, meaning that it's a recording that the company wants to save and the file. That's the thing, you need it, resignation letter. Now, the question is how to write a resignation letter. Now, I just want to give you a sample. So if you just look at the sample is very much easy to understand. And look, what you shouldn't be doing while you are writing a resignation letter. One thing you should be focusing on, don't be so emotional. Okay? You don't have to be emotional. And you are just getting so angry, ferocious, because the company was not paying you, and you are just becoming so emotional and giving a resignation letter that today I'm not going to do your job. That's it, just you cannot do it, right? So you cannot show your extreme emotions in the resignation letter. It has to be so formal, it has to be so organized, it has to be so professional. Because if it's not something like that, because if you want to write something to your boss, if you want to have some words with your boss, make sure that you write an email. So you don't have to include all those things in the resignation letter. Okay? So, and when you're leaving the company, there must be an exit interview. The HR is going to ask you, what are the problems that you faced during your tenure with the company? And then you can mention, that was the problem I had with my boss. You can explain that to the HR guy. But you don't have to be mentioning all those things in the professional resignation letter. You don't have to that, because you're not writing an angry letter, you're writing a resignation letter. And be formal. You don't even have to mention that why are you leaving, or what are you going to do after that. It's just a formal way. It's kind of like showing the gratitude to the company, that I'm really lucky that I had the opportunity to serve you for 2 years or 3 years. Just write that, and then just say that officially I'll be resigning from there. And then if there is a substitute, meaning that if there is an alternative, because someone is going to take your place, by the way. So if you are going to train him, or you're going to guide him, and how you're going to help the company so that it remains sustainable, you're not going to cause harm to the company. Whatever the issue is, be professional, even if the company is not paying you that much, but don't do that, because it harms your professional character. For someone who has harmed you, you cannot harm yourself. And I cannot be harmful to someone because he was harmful to me. And that's not the nature of a humankind, or that's not the nature of a Muslim humankind. So what you need to do, actually, even though he is harmful to you, he was harmful to you, but you'll be so kind to him in dealing with him. This is what we should be learning in our professional life. I hope that you'll be remembering that. And if you forget that, again, listen to the lecture so that you remember that. What does it say? So it's just a format. I'll be giving you that format. It can be followed. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to just always follow this format, but I want you to know how to write that resignation letter. I want you to know what are the things that you must be following. Okay, so what should be including in the resignation letter? You should be including like the date, whom are you addressing that, and when are you leaving, and if there is a substitute against your position, and how will be you available for the communication, meaning that when you leave the company, are you available for the communication, meaning that can I just make you a call and when I'm in trouble. So if you're doing so, then fantastic. If you're not doing so, it shows that you're not professional. So whether you leave the company, because the company wants you to help them with the information, because a human being is not some, and remember that we cannot replace a human being. We cannot replace any human being, and there is no replacement of any human being. Either way, it can be like tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow after few days, or maybe it may happen that you'll be finding another teacher giving the same lecture to you. Okay, there is a replacement of the human, but look, the way I teach, because every human being is unique, so there shouldn't be a replacement of the human being. But what we want, it's a replacement of the job, the nature of the job, it's a kind of like the one who is to shoulder the responsibility at first, and someone else is going to shoulder the responsibility right now, and the way of performing the task may be different, but the objective is the same. Clear? Meaning he's going to work for the company, and he's also going to work for the company, but the way of dealing with the job may be different. Okay, that's the thing. So make sure that I just gave a format. You can write your manager's name, you can write it down, whom you're addressing, or you can address as like dear sir or ma'am, and then please accept, and look at the language is very much professional. Okay, so these are very much professional thing. You don't have to be so emotional, and you cannot say that, hey boss, you didn't pay me last month's salary and I'm so angry on you, and that's I'm not going to do the job. No, you cannot mention that. If you have any issue, you can write an email, an informal email to your boss, or you can even complain to the HR, but there must be another way. It shouldn't be mentioned in the resignation letter. Why? The question is that if you are mentioning that that was the thing, because when you are going to take any legal action, you may take any legal action against the company, but when you are just mentioning that legal action being so angry in your resignation letter, they may go for your behavior during the tenure when you serve the company, and they'll be finding it really true that you are so harsh, you are not professional. So they're going to deal you in that way. So make sure that it's something like you always remain professional, whatever the behavior is, whatever the situation is. So you have to be so professional. So you don't have to show your anger, or you don't need to express your anger on the resignation letter, because it has nothing to do. The problem is not with the resignation letter, the problem is with the company. So make sure that you don't write down or translate all your angers into that resignation letter. Keeping it intact and keeping it very much professional will help you to be more professional, and you must have huge endurance power when you're resigning a company, because it's not a difficult, it's not a good way, or it's not a it's a good thing just to resign from a company. At the same time, you have to understand that a company has invested a lot of money on you. They have given a circular, and then they have after so many interviews they have selected you. So their investment they have done on you, but we don't sometimes we don't understand that investment, that how the company is investing on you. We don't understand that, but literally there is huge investment the company does on you just to select you, just to nominate you, and then they invest on you, they give you time, so they want you to be more professional. So this will be the format I want you to follow in your professional career, because I know that you people because it's not the time that you'll be learning the grammars of the things, but maintain a kind of a format way so that you can communicate in your professional career. Okay, you get me? I hope so. Now let's come for the joining letter. How to write a joining letter? You can just go for something like that. Subject and intimation for joining on duty. Sir, this is one heading. Concerning your appointment letter number, because you always be finding that there is a reference number when they give your appointment letter, there is a reference number, and you have to you always have to go for that reference number, mentioning that reference number, and it always works as a proof that, and it helps you to trace your details. So that's why you should be maintaining that. So now dot. Okay, these are the things. So you don't need to put all the things. It's not necessary that this is the only Bible. No, it can be changed. depending on the situation, but I want you to stick with a format so that you can communicate, and when you're joining in a company, you can go and give a joining letter. It's a proof that you are working in that company. And when you're resigning, always give that resignation letter. It's a proof that you have resigned from that company, and always keep a copy to yourself. So my dear students, so today we have learned joining letter and resignation letter. So these are the things that you must be following. And one thing that I want to tell you that whatever the job is, whatever the nature of the job is, our job is job. But always maintain that you must have the documentation. Keep that documentation with you, and that really helps you to be more professional and then more logical. In some cases, because when you are applying in outside, sometimes you don't have the experience certificate. In that case, you may have a resignation letter. You can show it as a proof that I used to work over there, and you can show your appointment letter as a joining letter, and the joining letter as well. And there is always a difference between an appointment letter meaning that they are showing the interest that they want to appoint you, and a joining letter is that you are replying against the appointment letter that yes, I want to accept your appointment letter and I'm joining in your company. That's the difference. You must be keeping it in mind. And I hope that you will be enjoying the lecture, and you'll be sharing that lecture with your friends and families. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, International University of Scholars, please do subscribe, and please keep in touch and communicate with me. So in this class, I'm not going to give you any assignment, but hopefully we are planning to go for a presentation that I'll let you know in the Zoom class tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with me. Stay fine and stay healthy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.